Hello, I'm going to talk about Zhuangzi this Sunday afternoon. I've been reading him for the last week. I haven't read him in maybe 20 years, but he was one of my favorites authors during my formative years before I was 20, mixing Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Taoism all together. And Zhuangzi was Lao Tzu's, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, his only disciple that wrote anything down. As you all know, the Lao Tzu famous work begins, the Tao that can be expressed in words is not the eternal Tao. And he who knows tells it not, he who tells it knows it not. And such very famous poetic sayings belong to Lao Tzu. And Taoism pre-existed Buddhism in China and kind of paved the way for it. There's a very famous saying about Taoism and Buddhism and Confucianism. It says that, it's by Sung Jiao. He says, I study Confucius to learn how to rule the world. I study Taoism to learn how to live in it. And I study Buddhism to learn how to leave it. And so Taoism is kind of a middle way. So I've been reading Zhuangzi, who's noted for his humor and poignant way of saying things, and analogies and metaphors that he uses to express himself. And one thing that really struck me this week when I was reading him was a little story. I'm going to relate it to you. It talks about someone who lives in a village or a small city in China. And he's lived there all his life. He's like 60 or so. And he's kind of a unfriendly character, but not a hateful or harmful person at all. He just doesn't really appreciate the people around him, and he has a dismissive attitude towards everyone. He's kind of abrupt in the way he greets people. He doesn't like to engage in conversation or idle talk with them. But yet he's not what you call a Dharma practitioner either. So he's just kind of has a chip on his shoulder, so to speak. But he's not aggressive or mean in any way. He just somehow doesn't feel that he wants to be part of the society he's in. And so people don't dislike him or like him. They don't know what to make out of him. Anyway, so this story goes sort of like this. This person decided one day that there's really no point in staying in this village anymore, because really I don't vibe out with all of the people here. They really don't mean much to me. So I'm just going to go my way and see where my path leads me. So he left his village and packed up all of his stuff and decided to just walk no matter how many hundreds of miles to the next village. And so after one day of walking, he kind of didn't see anybody. It didn't feel like he missed anybody too much, but he started to feel a little bit alone. After 2 days, if he happened to see somebody on the roadside or on the pathway from his village, his heart kind of quivered a little bit. He wanted to say hello, but he couldn't quite bring himself to say hello. But a little kindling of warmth arose in him. So after 4 or 5 days, if somebody he saw that he recognized that was from his village, he ventured a hello and a wave. And it made him feel really good just to see somebody that he recognized. After 2 weeks of wandering, if he saw somebody he recognized from his village, even if he never talked to them ever before, he would strike up a conversation and want to be in touch with them. And the story goes that after a month wandering from his village, even if he saw a dog from his village that was out and about, he'd kneel down and pet it, and cuddle with it, and get its tail wagging, and be all really happy, feed it a little bit of his own food. And so, after about a month and a half of wandering, he realized the people in his village were really quite wonderful. And he was sorry he was ever so dismissive of everybody. So, you can make out of the story whatever you want to make. You know, there's one level you can look at it as, you know, where from a Buddhist perspective, not necessarily a Taoist perspective, but it might be what Chaung is talking about. We live in this world and we have our families, our relations, our friendships, and so forth. And a lot of our associations we take for granted. You know, we say hello to our wife in the morning, pat our kids on the back as they go to school, and maybe not, you know, think so much about it. But if we somehow we're separated from our families, maybe we got a divorce or something, or maybe our spouse divorced us. Anyway, if we felt alone, even a girlfriend ditched us, whatever it is. Even the people that we saw at work would seem like we'd want to strike up a conversation with them. Whereas when everything was going well, we couldn't care less about our fellow workers. And if you take it a little bit further, we're in this world and we're born in this world. We pass through life accumulating friendships and relationships. If we're very fortunate, we come under the guidance of a great teacher, spiritual guide from our whatever tradition we follow. And then, you know, one day, of course, as our body goes on strike and says, I've served you long enough. I'm not going to serve you anymore. And the body quits, and the heat goes out of our chest, and maybe we hang around a while looking above the whole scene and protesting to all those gathered above our corpse that we're really still very much alive. And we never felt better in our lives as everybody's mourning and trying to figure out how to pay for our funeral because we didn't leave anything behind or something like that. And then we go to move our legs and stuff, or move our arms, and we think, God, everybody's right. My body isn't responding. And maybe this is what death is all about. And all those people are right after all. And just about that time, something grabs us on the shoulder and starts pulling us away. What are we? And then we go through all of these strange pathways. What friend will we find? What will be there to greet us? Even a dog from our neighborhood would be a welcome sight, or a cat. But no friendships we find, no familiar sights we find. And then we realize how important and how precious life is, and how carelessly we cast it aside. But it's too late now, and so we have to go to the judgment. So that's the way life is. What can we do about it? We can think about it like Zhuangzi says. Imagine wandering away from your little nest where you are now, going on a walk somewhere, thinking people are so unimportant, and associations are so unimportant. Friendships are taken for granted. And just get a glimpse at our own belief in a givenness of everything. How we think everything is a given. It's a given that we have a good family. It's a given that we have a good job. It's a given that we have clothes on our back, and so forth. None of this is a given, and it will all be taken away. And that's what Zhuangzi said we should think about. And so, aside from what Zhuangzi had to say, I really have nothing to say, but I just wanted to give this little talk today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you read Zhuangzi. Okay, bye-bye.